Welcome to Career Uprising. I'm your host and professional career coach, Lorraine Rise. Join me as I guide you through an amazing journey of self-discovery and empowerment. If you are looking for work, changing careers, or stuck in a toxic job, then this is the show for you. I offer both practical and spiritual guidance to help you up-level and advance your career. Let's start the uprising. Hey everyone, you are listening to episode 142, Secrets of the Salary Negotiation with Alex Immel. Please take a moment, you guys, and rate and review this show on Apple Podcasts. I would appreciate it very much. It is the number one way to help the show, to help it be found by listeners like you, who I appreciate so much. And to learn more about what I do, go to careeruprising.com. So how are you guys doing? Of course, you know me. I'm Lorraine, your career coach, and it's been, I feel like, a couple of weeks since I've actually recorded anything. A little bit of a gap in shows there, but there's been a lot going on in my world, a lot of non-work related things that have kind of taken me away from the business a little bit, but that's okay. So I am back today and I'm really excited. I've got a great guest today. Alex Immel of Next Level Negotiation is in the studio, and I really am excited to dive into this topic. This is a big one. I have so many clients who ask me questions about how to negotiate the salary. This is something we could talk a lot about, and I think there's going to be a lot of great takeaways from this interview because Alex is an expert on this. This is his bread and butter. This is what he does, and we're going to talk about why negotiations succeed, why they fail, what you need to say and do differently. So no matter who you are, if you've got even an internal or external job offer that you might be getting, you're actively job searching, this show is for you. So I'm very, very excited to help people through this because it's such a big pain point for a lot of people. And it's really a skill. There's a right and a wrong way to negotiate your salary. It can go south very quickly if we don't know what we're doing, or some people avoid it altogether and leave money on the table. And I don't want you to do that either. So I'm going to bring Alex on in just a moment, but just to give you a little bit of background, Alex was the product manager and lead negotiator for the salary negotiation service at Pathrise, helping hundreds of people negotiate 20% or more increases in their salary. And now in his own business, his expertise can be put to work for you, and you're going to get to know him today. And he's also partnered with Career Uprising to help our clients negotiate more money. And we have already seen fantastic success through this partnership. Alex just finished helping one of my clients get a $12,000 increase in her job offer. And I know that we can do the same for you. And it's a tough economy out there. So that is a really big deal. And that's a lot of money for somebody to have more every year that they wouldn't have had before. So the impact of this is really tremendous. And listen all the way to the end of the show, because then you're going to hear a little bit more about how you can work with Alex, whether you are a Career Uprising client or not. Whoever you are, you're going to have the opportunity to take advantage of his services. So welcome to the show, Alex. We're glad you're here.
Thanks, Lorraine. Really excited to be here.
Absolutely. This is a really, really important topic, and I'm going to be a student as well, and I'm sure I'm going to learn a lot, and certainly our clients are too. So to start out, would you just tell us a little bit about you, your background, and how you got into doing the work that you're doing today?
Sure. I'd be happy to. So my background in negotiation starts with my first job out of college. I was a sales intern and then got a full-time offer to be a sales development representative, and I didn't negotiate the salary. And of course, I later regretted that and spent a couple years fighting for more compensation. But luckily, I had a great sales coach at the time. Shout out Andy Benitez, my guy. And he taught me the value of tone and using silence effectively and asking great questions and active listening. And a lot of the concepts he taught me were from this book called Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss. So obviously I went and read that, and I became obsessed with negotiation from there. So eventually got the opportunity to work at Pathrise, which is a mentorship-driven career coaching program for tech professionals. And I used all of what I learned to negotiate my salary there and had a lot of success with it and a lot of fun doing it. So over the years, while I was working at Pathrise, I was helping my friends out, my girlfriend, now fiance, work colleagues, all these different people with their salary negotiations kind of informally. And then I negotiated multiple promotions and raises at Pathrise, and then finally got the opportunity to launch a salary negotiation service there. And so, like you mentioned, I was the product manager and lead negotiator, but eventually, like many people in tech, I got laid off. So I started looking for a new job, but then realized, I was pretty good at helping people with their negotiations. So I decided to launch my own business, Next Level Negotiation. And so we help mid-career to senior level professionals maximize their income on job offers without looking greedy to their future employer. And, I follow a performance-based pricing model. So you only pay if I successfully help you increase the offer. So if there's no increase, there's no fee. And I really like that aligned incentive that I have with my clients. And at this point, I've helped over 100 people negotiate places like TikTok, Amazon, Best Buy, and a bunch of other companies and small startups. But I really love the work I do, and I'm super passionate about helping people maximize their income. It's really fun for me.
Absolutely. Yeah. So it sounds like you really have been using negotiation to some degree throughout your career, because you started in sales, and that's a big part of it, right? There's some crossover there, but your skill set and experience has really evolved. It sounds like now to the point of going out on your own. So congrats on that. And I know that feeling as well. Yeah. Definitely. Perfect. Well, so let's start with kind of the basics. A lot of people just avoid the negotiation altogether. They are scared to death of it. And it's men and women. Honestly, I see this with both genders. Why do you think that is? What are people afraid of? And what are the consequences of not negotiating at all?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. And this is very near and dear to my heart. And the reason why I love helping people with their negotiation, there's some stat I found where only 42% of young professionals negotiate their job offer. And there's so much money left on the table. And so I think the big thing, the reason why people are avoiding it is kind of like you said, they're scared. There's fear, right? They're scared that the offer is going to be rescinded if they ask for more money, or they're worried that they'll look greedy and ruin relationships with their future coworkers. Or, it could be just a lack of experience, which really just translates to a lack of confidence that I see. So, they feel uncomfortable or awkward with the discussion of money. And then, maybe they lack leverage or feel like they might lack leverage, which I don't see as the case often. Even if you're someone that's just graduating, you can find ways to create leverage. And then in some cases, it's just cultural differences, right? At Pathrise, worked with a lot of foreign job seekers immigrating to the U.S. And, in different countries, the practice of negotiating a salary is not normal. So, helping people navigate the U.S. job market there is also, really important. But, the consequence of doing this is, salary negotiations have a compounding effect. So accepting a lower pay early on in your career drastically decreases your long-term earning potential, right? Or at any point in your career, if you're not negotiating and getting the maximum, long-term, you're not going to maximize what you're making. And I saw a stat online also where, someone starting a career off at $80,000 will earn $1.2 million less over the course of a 40-year career. And that's assuming annually 5% raises than an employee who starts out at $90,000. So if you were just to negotiate that first job $10,000 more from 80K to 90K, you're making up $1.2 million more over the course of your career. So that's a lot of missed future earnings. Absolutely.
That's a lot. And people don't realize that. As you said, your future raises will be determined by that salary. So it's not just that short-term salary. It's your future compensation that depends on this negotiation. Very much. Absolutely. So how likely is it that an employer is really going to rescind an offer? Have you ever seen that happen? Is that something that people really need to be worried about? I mean, what's really the worst that's going to happen if you negotiate and they can't do it?
Yeah, I mean, this is a good question. I get it all the time. It is not likely at all. It is incredibly rare that a company would rescind an offer. And I haven't had a client get their offer rescinded, knock on wood, but I have seen it before with a couple of my friends. But, first and foremost, companies are spending thousands of dollars to get to the point where they give you an offer. And they leave room in the budget to negotiate, even if they don't put you at the top of their pay band. Even if they do put you at the top of their pay band, right? So they've dedicated all this time and resources to finding the right candidate, and they're giving you an offer because they believe you are the right one, right? And companies don't take that lightly. So the last thing they want to do is start the process back from square one or go to a different candidate that they're not as excited about. So I would always negotiate. The only times that I would see an offer being rescinded is one, they felt like you would be a liability. So, if you were disrespectful in the negotiation or raised a big red flag after you received the offer, then maybe they will rescind the offer. And that's your own fault. Don't be disrespectful. Approach it with respect, obviously. And, if you have a red flag that pops up, then that's gonna go away. The other thing is if they rescind an offer, you're likely dodging a bullet from a company that doesn't actually value their employees enough to respect their effort to negotiate. So I think that's a big thing where if companies aren't willing to even just have that conversation or tell you, there's no room for negotiation, and then leave it at that, and, they give you the option to choose to accept or not, then that's just not a great company if they immediately rescind it for you asking. One of my friends just recently negotiated their job offer, and it was the initial offer was below the job description pay band that they put out online. And so, very reasonably asks for a little bit more that was in the pay range that they posted online. And right away, they rescinded the offer. Just got an email back. Sorry, we've rescinded. We're going forward with another candidate. I just thought that was really shady. And the person, my friend, was like, you know what? I am very relieved that I did not go with this company. The way they handled it was really bad. And it just says a lot about, who you might be working for. So I think negotiation can actually be a great qualifier in you interviewing them to see, if they're the right fit for you. So always ask for more.
I love that. I agree. And I completely agree. And when I coach clients, I've always said the same thing. If for some bizarre reason they do rescind the offer just for that reason, you don't want to work for them. And so I like that you phrase it that way, that this process is a good qualifier for you as well, to also be kind of almost testing them a little, not so much that, but a little bit, right? Just to make sure that they are making this offer in good faith and really do want you and are willing to work with you on that. That's really important to start off on that foot with your next potential employer. So I think that's a great way to look at it, and not enough people really see it that way. So at what point does a job seeker have the most leverage? Should they wait until the moment when they actually get an offer in hand to talk about salary? Should they postpone it to that point, or should they bring it up sooner? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, that's a good question. I think it will be brought up sooner, so you need to be prepared for that, which is the recruiter screening call. And they're going to ask you, what are your salary expectations? So you need to be ready to answer that question. That's where the negotiation starts. However, you have the most leverage when you get to the end of the interview process and you've showed them your value, right? When they feel confident you're the right fit and they're giving you an offer, that's when you have leverage. And that's, one of the big points of leverage that you want to take is your unique value in the story about how you can solve the problems that they're hiring you to solve, right? So that's what I would say is probably you have the most leverage at the offer stage, but you need to be ready to answer and address the negotiation part in the initial stages as well.
So how should somebody approach that? Let's say it's very early in the process, maybe even a HR phone screening. And I hate to say it, sometimes it's even in the application without even a human. You have to just put your salary amount in the application. That's maybe a whole nother question, but how about when it's very early in the process, maybe just a phone screening, you don't know that much about the job and you get asked up front, what are your salary expectations? What should somebody say? Should they even give an answer or postpone it altogether? What do you do?
Yeah, I mean, that's the most heavily debated topic in salary negotiations. Recruiters have one perspective. Coaches like us have a different perspective. Everyone has their own opinion here. This question itself, the what are your salary expectations? It's what I call a gotcha question. And it's not necessarily trying to trap you. I think the bad recruiters are someone that would ask that as a negotiation tactic to get the upper hand. The good recruiters are simply asking that question to see if you fit within their budget, and they're just not trying to waste anyone's time, right? So it's very reasonable for them to ask that. Ideally, you have salary transparency, and they just give you the range on the job description, and then you can let them know if that meets your expectations. But that's not always the case. And there are some states out there that now have salary transparency laws that requires you to put that on there. But even in that case, I was looking, I saw a company that put a range of $80,000 to $400,000 as their salary. It's like,
yes, I've seen those. They're ridiculous. It's almost taunting you, mocking you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, it cracks me up when I see that. But anyway, when you get to a point where you don't know the salary range, and the recruiter asks you that, the problem with answering with a range is if you go too low, you undervalue yourself, right? And it might set you up for failure later in the negotiations or make it really hard for you to get what you want. And then if you go too high, you actually risk getting disqualified immediately from the process. And even if it was like a potentially great opportunity for you that you'd be willing to accept a lower salary on. So I always, instead of answering with a range or a specific number, I always recommend putting the question back on the recruiter and asking for the company's budget. So that amount might sound something like, I'm aiming for the high end of what you can approve. I'm confident I can give way more value than whatever that is, but I understand companies have budgets and set pay bands for each role. What's the budget? And I can let you know if that meets my expectations. Or there's another way to approach it as well, which I love, and it's posing the question back on them and asking straight up, what are your pay transparency policies?
Okay.
And so now they're in a position where, they don't want to have their culture seem, like a negative one, right? So if they answer with, well, we have, we take that very seriously and here's the salary range, then you've got that down, right?
Okay. Interesting. So really almost like calling them out a little bit or giving them the opportunity to come forth and be transparent at that moment, right? And seeing how they handle that ask for transparency. That's interesting. Okay. Yeah. So you would basically advise people not to give a number, at least not at that early stage. Or maybe at least not until you have asked them for a number, and then you can just confirm or deny if that's in your range, right? Okay.
Yeah.
So avoid giving a number. Now, how about when even worse than asking, in my opinion, even worse than asking for your salary expectations is actually asking what you have made. What was your most recent salary? How should somebody handle that? Is there ever an appropriate time to disclose that? What are your thoughts on that?
I would never answer that question unless it puts you at an advantage. So, and usually that's the only time you would answer a question like that or voluntarily reveal what you're currently making is if the offer that they gave you is less than that. And so then that's just a point of leverage of, I'm making XYZ right now. Is there any way we can get closer to that? Right. But in general, I think I don't know how many states, but a lot of states actually have, it's against the law to ask that. So you definitely do not need to answer what are you currently making?
So how should somebody respond to that? Should they just say something to the effect of, that's personal information. I generally don't give that out, but can you share with me what the company has budgeted? Something like that. How would somebody respond to that if maybe they're in a state where it is permitted to ask that and then they get asked that? Any guidance on that?
Yeah, actually, I would answer it exactly how you mentioned it. Like, that's personal information. I appreciate you asking. I'm not comfortable sharing it. Could you just tell me a little bit more about the budget for this role, and I can let you know if that meets my expectations.
Got it. Okay, good. Well, I'm glad to know I'm giving people the right advice. Exactly what I tell people, absolutely. Okay, that sounds good. Now, how about in instances, I've had this with clients too, where they give you an urgent deadline. You've got this quick turnaround, oh, we like you, and here's this offer. You have 24 hours to accept it. And I always personally don't like that. That's a little off-putting to me. And to me, maybe this is just how I interpret it. That's a sign of a company that maybe is a little bit insecure about securing talent. Why only 24 hours, something like that. What should somebody do? Because maybe they need more time. Maybe they're expecting another offer. How should a job seeker handle that?
Yeah, it's a really underrated part of the negotiation process is the timing. Especially when you're interviewing with other companies, it rarely works out where every interview lines up perfectly, where you got offers at the same time. And so typically, you might have a week or two left in another interview process, and it's hard to manage the timeline there, but you do ideally want to see that through so that you can either leverage that offer with this one, or you have a better offer and a better company you want to work at, so you just choose that, right? So you want all the options you can get. But when it comes to urgent deadlines, that's a very common tactic by recruiters and just companies in general. There's a couple ways that you can handle it. First, I would ideally try to control the timeline yourself first if they don't give you a deadline. So you might, responding to an offer, thank you so much. I'm really excited to work here. I'm going to go back to the drawing board, come up with some questions. I can get you a response by the end of next week, or something like that, right? Where you're in control of the timeline. You are setting the stage of, I can get you a response by this time, right? There's another way to approach it where you're just transparent with them. So if you do have other interviews or offers, then you want to make sure to share that so that they understand you have a timeline and you're trying to be respectful of other interviews as well. And then you can also kind of delay with silly questions. I don't know if that's the right way to put it, but it's more so like if they give you they give you the offer on Friday and then they say, get us a response by Monday afternoon, you can come back to them and send an email Monday morning and just say, hey, I have a few questions here. And you start asking, like nitpicking every part of the offer. You ask about the benefits, you ask about the 401k program, you kind of like just lay out a bunch of stuff that this person now has to go back and get answers for you. And you can continue that process of just asking more and more questions to give you more time. So I think that, that is one way if you're desperate to get, some more time. But I think the obvious one is just to ask for an extension, right? Like people forget that you can just ask for more time. And if you have a good reason, then they'll typically give it to you.
And so and I agree. I agree. I think that just kind of being transparent and saying, look, I need a little bit more time to make a decision. What if they come back and say, no, I'm sorry, we need a response tomorrow? In my opinion, I'm thinking, well, I would tell the job seeker, well, you have a choice to make. How bad do you want to work for him? So what are your thoughts? So what if they come back and say, no, I'm sorry, we need an answer by tomorrow? Do you just have a choice to make then as a job seeker? Or is there something else you can do?
You do have a choice at that point. However, you can try to handle that objection a little bit further. So a lot of people will immediately get defensive or like try to go to a solution first. But really what you're trying to do in a negotiation is gather as much information as possible from the other party so that you can use that as leverage. So if they say like, I'm not able to, give you an extension, then maybe your response is, oh, okay, well, can you help me understand like why you needed a response by this date? it seems like there's something going along or going on in the background that I'm not aware of. Like, what's the timeline? Why is the reason for that? Right. And so you can kind of just collaborate with them and try to get an understanding of why they have such an urgent deadline and go from there and try to have a conversation about, okay, well, it seems like, maybe you really do just need us to start on this date. And would it be impossible for me to get you a response by this date instead, since that'll give us enough time to do XYZ before then, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I know, from my days as a recruiter, I've had bosses who put pressure on me to close the candidate immediately. And, they would want me to, just throw in this or throw in that, or say, if you sign by tonight, we'll give you this or something like that. And I found that it backfired sometimes and it pushed people away. And I didn't like doing it as a recruiter. I was always uncomfortable with that. But recruiters have bosses and pressure sometimes, unfortunately. But no, I think that's good. I don't personally like it when they put pressure on candidates like that. I just think it's poor form. But no, I think that's good advice to just diplomatically and politely just push back gently and just say, okay, well, would it be possible to get more time? And if so, why not? Help me understand the timeline and the process, from the hiring manager's perspective. I think that's very practical advice. I think that makes sense. And then if they push back again, you got to decide, it's just how bad do you want it sometimes when they kind of put you back to the wall there a little bit. But how about this scenario? I have a lot of, I work with a lot of older clients who, have a lot of experience and they worry about being overqualified. And sometimes we want to take a step back. Sometimes, we've been a manager and we don't want to be a manager anymore. And maybe the job that we're taking is less money and we know that. But that's kind of the reverse problem, right? Is there any insights to that salary negotiation to, hey, don't count me out. Like, I know I look expensive, but I would take this job and I would love it. And is that something that you help clients with, or any guidance on that process?
Yeah, I think that really starts early in the interview process and even potentially on your resume. And I'm not an expert in this, and I think you would probably have better advice here. But from my perspective, that is addressing it proactively, addressing it before they think it's a concern, right? So this is something called an accusations audit. It's from that book I mentioned earlier, Never Split the Difference, where you think about, like, what will this person have an objection to based on my background or what I'm about to say, and do an accusations audit where you address it beforehand so that you put all the cards on the table and you get the tough stuff out of the way. And really, I think that's just coming from a place of, I'm really excited about this role. I understand that I have a lot more experience than you would typically hire for this, but here's why I'm interested in this company. Here's why I'm willing to take a step back. And, this is what, and I'm also willing to, take a pay cut as well. Obviously, I want the fair market value for this role, but I am willing to take a pay cut because I'm so excited about this company, right?
Absolutely. Yes. No, that's exactly what I tell people. I call it addressing the elephant in the room and actually getting ahead of the conversation and saying, essentially, hey, I know I might look overqualified, but here's why I'm a great fit. Here's why I'm still interested. And anticipating the objection, which is what we do in sales, right? We want to know what our potential objections are and anticipate them. And I tell clients, be the one to bring it up. If you know it's going to be an issue, and bring it up and just say, hey, look, before we get too far, I know you might look at my experience and wonder why I would be interested or think that I'm overqualified. So yeah, absolutely. No, I totally agree with you. It sounds to me like being proactive overall is really important in salary negotiations, whether you're going up or down. You want to go in with a plan. You want to go in with a strategy. That's really what I'm kind of taking away from this too, is we don't want to just be haphazard. We want to have a strategy for how we're going to approach this.
100%.
Definitely. Yeah. Well, so if somebody works with you, Alex, tell me a little bit more about the process. What does that look like? What do they get with your services? How does it all work?
Yeah, thank you for asking. So with each client, I start off with a free consultation. So we'll go through and learn more about your situation, see if it makes sense to work together, and I'll try to help guide you in the right direction. By the end of that call, if we don't end up working together, I'll try to give you some value, right? But then once we get started, I take a 3-step process with each client. So start by strategizing. So figure out the market research that we need to do and understand like where we should anchor based on your unique situation. Then from there, I prepare people. So I work with them on and build a custom script for each conversation that they have coming up. And we run through mock negotiations so that they feel like they're in the driver's seat going into that call. And then lastly, I help them execute. And really what that looks like usually is a live negotiation support call where, I'll jump on and I'll be kind of a shadow, a fly on the wall for that conversation and coach them up live in the chat, while my camera's off and I'm on mute. And so this can be really helpful for people that, we've prepared for everything, but there's always going to be a curveball. And I can help them, ask a follow-up question or respond in this way. And so then they can navigate that conversation live. And then, once they do end up accepting an offer, after a couple counter offers, which is typically what we want to do, we don't want to just ask once, we want to ask a couple times and push as much as we can within reason. But then once they accept the offer, then they pay the fee of 10% of the difference between the initial offer and final offer, so that they get that 9x ROI on the investment.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and I love the model and the process that you have. I love that it's, you've got these scripts and templates and you actually do live support. I mean, that is really just taking it to the next level. And you've had success already with our clients. A lot of people have signed up for your services. So I've been really just promoting it because I think it just makes so much sense. And what you do is such a great compliment to what we do. And you kind of take what we do, but you take it to the next level, which I absolutely love. So I want to let listeners know too, if you are interested in working with Alex, which I highly recommend. He comes with my personal stamp of approval. Definitely, same philosophy, same ideology here. There's a couple of ways that you guys can connect with him. So first, there is a special link to book a call with him that I have put in the show notes and description. So if you're listening on Apple or wherever, there's a show description. It's on my website also. There is a link right there that says book a call with Alex. So please use that. The call is free. And as he said, working with him is free unless he's successful. It's a pay for performance kind of thing. So he doesn't make money unless you make money. That is a win-win. So check the show notes. Also, I'll be promoting this episode, of course, and putting the phone call link out through my email and social media. So please look for that. But also, if you're listening to this and you want to just email me directly at Lorraine@careeruprising.com, I will personally do an email introduction and connect you with Alex. So there's 3 ways right there. So if all else fails, you guys send me an email. My email is out there all over my website and LinkedIn, Lorraine@careeruprising.com, and I will put you in contact with him. And there's no upfront investment and there's no risk. It's really, really amazing. So I want to thank you, Alex, for 2 things. One, for coming here today and sharing all of this great information, and also just for the work that you do. Because like I said, you've already been working with some of our clients with really great success. So thank you for that. So any final tips? Is there anything that you want to share with listeners about a salary negotiation that we didn't cover? Any tips or tricks or, best practices? Let me just kind of open it up for one more thing, whatever you'd like to share.
Okay. Yeah.
No pressure.
I think there's one thing that I have found people kind of fumble over in the negotiation process, and that's when the offer is actually delivered to them. So typically that'll come either by email from the recruiter, or they'll give you a call and tell you the offer. This is more important than you know. A lot of people feel the pressure of when they get an offer, they want to either accept it right away. It feels really good. It's exciting to get that. But I can't stress this enough. Do not accept the offer right away. On that phone call that you get, you just need to follow a few simple rules. Number one, you need to express gratitude and appreciation. Obviously, you're excited, express gratitude, right? Don't accept it. Ask for more time to review with your family. Schedule a follow-up call with them to talk about it. And then ask questions about the offer just so you can understand it. Benefits, equity, performance bonuses, etc., right? So on that call, do not negotiate. You just simply are asking for more time, and then you will have the space to do the research you need to do, prepare for the next conversation, come up with the right questions, and then go back when you're collected and ready to negotiate. That would be something that I'd like to stress. It's just, I've seen too many times where people get a little flustered in that call and think that they need to negotiate right away when they're not prepared.
That is an excellent piece of advice. I completely agree with you. There is never any harm in just taking a pause, processing, and being thoughtful and intentional about your response. And we get emotional, right? We get overcome. Yeah, we're so excited. We got a job offer. Yeah. But sometimes, you can put yourself at a disadvantage because you might agree to something and later you wish you had given it more time or more thought. And then that gives people time to work with you and tell you, hey, Alex, I got an offer, and he'll tell you exactly how to counter, right? So no, that's perfect. Thank you so, so much. This has been an amazing show, and I have learned a lot myself, and also it's just validated a lot of things that I coach clients on as well. But at Career Uprising, we don't actually do the negotiation for you. So that is an excellent value add for you and a reason for people to want to work with you. I hope people will take advantage of this. So thank you so much, Alex, for being here. And everyone, please go learn more about him. It's Alex Immel at Next Level Negotiation. Reach out to me or check the show notes for the link to book a call with him. And thank you guys for listening. And I will be back with another episode in about 1 week, I think, at the end of April, with a fantastic success story, a Career Uprising client. I'm going to interview. I love interviewing my clients. It's so exciting. So thanks, guys, for listening, and I will be back soon. Talk to you later. That's it for today's show. Thank you so much for listening. If you like what you heard today, please consider giving the show a positive review on iTunes. It would mean a lot to me, and it would help to spread the word so that others can learn about the show. Thanks again for tuning in, and I can't wait to connect with you again next time on Career Uprising.
This show is brought to you by InflowRadio.com, the best curated talk radio network for personal development, wellness, spirituality, and conscious business.